All right, everyone. So welcome back. I haven't done an interview with a MBTI YouTuber in a long time, but Ah-bree, who you see in front of me, he just the algorithm gods just kind of placed him in front of me, and I was like, I think the first video was the MBTI is real. That's the one that got in front of my face. It's your truth about MBTI video, which I'm going to ask you a question about that during this. But I wanted to be one of I think I'm the first one to interview you. I hope I am. If not, I missed
You
the
are,
bus.
you
But
are
okay,
actually.
perfect. So I'm always excited when I see newcomers to the industry or the community that are passionate about Myers-Briggs and want to educate others or at least talk about their experiences with it. So Ah-bree, welcome.
Thank you very much. Like I said earlier, I'm very honored to be here to, I guess, share the metaphorical seat as some of the
Oh,
greats that have come before me. I really didn't expect anyone to want to interview me this soon. My channel's very small still.
yeah, and but I think that's the best time to talk to someone. So when your channel blows up, I can say I remember him when.
Hopefully, hopefully.
I mean, I think I if you know Dear Kristen, I'm sure you know
I
her.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I interviewed her when her channel was like 3,000, and I think she's got like
Wow.
60 or 70. So I was like, man,
Yeah, she's
you've
big. Yeah.
she is big, big, big time right now. So, um, what I guess I'd want to the first thing that anyone that watches your videos, they're gonna say, obviously your unique style of like theatrical cinematic
Mhm.
is new to this industry. I don't think anyone else does it in this way. So tell me
Absolutely.
about why you thought that was the best way to talk about Myers-Briggs.
Sure. So, I mean, I guess it's a difficult question to answer because there's so many like layers going on there. The simplest way and the most succinct way I think that I can respond to that is I feel like the visual metaphors that I include in the videos help to take these very complex and esoteric ideas that we talk about with like MBTI and personality theory and make it a little bit more simple for people to understand. Um, but we can go deeper into that if you want to, because like I said, it's very so
Well,
many layers.
you're you're a would you consider yourself like a filmmaker? Or is that your day job? Is that your hobby? Is that your passion? Like, because obviously you have technical skills, the lighting and the videos and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the mise en scène that you have right now is obviously set up for like you care about cinematography.
absolutely. Yeah, I do feel like part of this, I guess, is a bit of a fundamental value of mine. I think that the quality and the presentation of anything that you do is necessarily attached to the quality of the content that you're giving.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah. So I think some people would see that as disingenuous in some ways. Like maybe it could have you heard of the halo effect?
No, no, I don't think so.
Okay. So the halo effect is it's like a psychological phenomenon where um say you have like an attractive politician, people assume that they're more competent than they are because of the way that they look.
Oh, okay.
That's not what I want to
Right.
happen with my videos, but I think that it is an important part of anything that we do in life is like having good presentation because it complements the more the insides, the
You're right.
fundamentals.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because when I first started this channel and I was doing like I had like a whole intro that would play and I would include more graphics and I would put more things in there, but now I'm just like I just want to get I'm all about as long as the content's good.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
think it's sort of lazy on my part where I'm like I'd rather just get this thought on video
Hmm.
and I've been doing a lot of lives now. So I just let it play and it's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
raw and
Well, yeah. I mean,
go
don't
ahead.
get me wrong, like I make one video every month or two,
Yeah.
right? Like I only have 4 videos out, so it takes a lot.
Hmm.
So there's pros and cons to like doing the more authentic side of
Right.
videos. And when I weighed the options, I just felt like I really enjoyed the
Right.
creative aspect of the cinematography.
Yeah, and I don't even know your type. I've looked and I couldn't find it. What is your type?
So I hope this doesn't throw a wrench into any of your plans for this interview, but
Oh,
I'm actually trying really hard to not talk about my
oh,
type.
okay. No, it
Yeah.
doesn't. That's so interesting. So that's also extremely unique in the community as well.
Yeah.
Um, but the second question still works, which
Oh
is
yeah.
how do
Yeah.
you know you are your type? I mean, obviously you
Yeah.
know your type, so how are you sure?
So I guess the first thing that I would say is like, um, I guess I'll speak in general, right? Like for anybody who wants to know, like, how can anyone know that their type is their type?
Hmm.
Um, I think the most important thing, obviously, is like to do a lot of self observation, and not just like self observation, like imaginary self observation. Like if I was put in this hypothetical situation,
Hmm.
this is what I would do. Like really observe yourself in every possible context. How do you actually work behaviorally, cognitively? Why do you think the things that you think?
Hmm.
And then once you have like those data points, I guess you can call them, then you can go back to the theory, right? And this is a problem all on its own. I'm sure anyone in the MBTI community is familiar. The theories are very fractured at the moment. And so part of the problem with people not being, I guess, certain, secure in what their type is because there's many different people saying different things about what different phenomenon mean
Right.
as far as like cognitive functions and archetypes are concerned.
Hmm. Hmm.
So the way that I would combat that is like study all the different theories, know every single one, and then once you have a really good like grounding of those, there is a through line. You know what I mean? Like
Yes, always.
maybe OP is talking about NI being uh what does he say it is, like abstract organization of ideas,
Okay.
and maybe CPT is talking about NI being, what does he say, like a convergent
Oh, the divergent
lens.
convergent.
Yes, yeah. Like
Okay.
inside the mind and it's wide. Like, and then like Dario Nardi talks about NI as like a flow state of the mind. So it's all of the brain regions working synchronously.
Sure.
So all of those things sound very disjointed, but when you
Hmm.
think about it, like there is a through line there. They all make sense. And I
Right.
think that's true for all of the cognitive functions. It's just we're using language in different ways that you can't really understand them unless you know all of the different perspectives.
Yeah. So do you think other you need to bring other systems, Enneagram, into place as well to how it overlaps? And there's a through line there too.
I actually, yeah, I agree with that. I'm not very familiar with other personality systems.
Okay.
I have looked at Enneagram like very briefly,
Hmm.
but I think anything that's going to help you become more aware of who you are is
Hmm.
definitely going to help.
Okay. So you've done this sort of self-observation, this meta perspective, stepping outside yourself, looking at yourself and going, as objective as I can be, this is probably my type.
That's, yeah, I think that's the best way. And there are consequences of this as well, right? Like I think a quote by Nietzsche is every philosopher ever was like subconsciously writing down their predispositional values or
Oh,
something like that.
okay.
I think that's possible too. Like we have these ideas about who we are that we're really not aware of. And so, like the blind function is blind for a reason.
Okay.
Um, so I think that getting outside perspective is also very important, but you can't really articulate, what you want the other person to observe unless you've already observed yourself.
Ah, okay. Okay. Yeah, because I thought like one of the thing I was going to push back with you on about the self-observation is you can easily think of people in your life that talk about themselves in a way that that's not how they are.
Absolutely, absolutely. I
You're like,
mean,
you're organized? Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
When I first was getting into MBTI, I was typed by a friend and I thought they were completely wrong. I was like, one specific part of my 4-letter code, I was like, if anything is wrong, that is wrong. And I was completely wrong. I ended up like, of course, after learning about the cognitive functions, I
Mhm.
realized that it had a completely different, it meant something different than what I thought. But even after learning it, I was like, oh, even my original supposition of what that meant
Mhm.
was incorrect.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we can be wrong about our own like phenomenological experience. And in that situation, I would say like, yeah, I think that getting typed by a bunch of people is probably a good idea too, but obviously that's like really expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive and you know, that's one thing. And then I think just asking people that know you really well, like,
Yeah,
read this, does
yeah,
this sound like me? And if they're like, no, and I'll tell you why, then you have a problem with self like reflection,
yeah, definitely.
I think. So, one of the videos that I do like the truth about MBTI video, and because you talk a lot about the criticisms of it, and I've done some videos. I did a video on Jordan Peterson and Adam Grant, and just sort of like how they just misrepresent it. And I think what's that fallacy called? It's like it's the not the scarecrow. Sorry, my son's just
Oh,
decided to
the
come into the room and
no
play the
worries.
guitar.
It's the straw man.
The straw man, yeah. And
Yeah,
they set it up as a as something to attack that isn't about, but like they're so popular that like everyone thinks that's the way they are.
right.
So,
Yeah.
and you kind of got into this in sort of the main bullet points, but um, the thing that I said is like, look, and I've said almost the same thing as you did in your video, which is like, just describe your friend and then describe another friend, and they're probably going to have a lot of different traits and qualifications and the way they think and talk, and then there's going to be like other people that will also kind of be described that way, but not quite, but pretty much. And then you'll generally say, like, those people share these sort of characteristics,
Mhm.
but we can't label that. That's wrong.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
wrong.
you're like my friend. No, you're not. You can't say that actually. So no one's like anybody, and there are no characteristics that some people share in certain intensities than others.
Hmm.
And your video got me thinking, like, I think every typologist comes to this conclusion that if you can describe people as different than other people, then there must be
Hmm.
these differentiated types that exist. So,
Absolutely.
was that obvious to you right away, or did you ever fall early in life into those like you can be whatever you want through just trying hard?
I think it's difficult because I still believe to a certain extent that there's a lot of room for growth, right? Like any person, despite their personality, they can learn to do whatever they want.
Hmm.
My position as of now is it is in spite of your personality that you can do whatever you want.
Ah,
It's going to be difficult. Like you might not have a predisposition to be good at whatever the case may be,
mhm,
right? Um, and there will be people that are more naturally good at that thing that you're trying to do. You're just going to have to work harder to do it,
mhm,
and you're going to have to work harder to maintain it. And you may fall back into this like home base area of whatever your personality type is to if you're not constantly working towards that
mhm.
thing. um but with that being said, I think as far as labels go, like maybe this is a misrepresentation of people outside of the MBTI community. I think a lot of people feel a certain level of discomfort with labels because it takes away their free will. And yeah, I'd like to know what you think about that.
Oh, okay. Um, like they're predestined to be a certain way, and they don't like that
Yeah,
control,
yeah.
giving up control. Okay, the way that I think about it now, and I like that you say where I'm at now, because your point may change or your view may change, but I would say they aren't comfortable with people being individuals, and for when I wrote that, I was like, that kind of sounds like backwards, but
Mm-hmm.
I think you talk about yourself using the labels from all the different personality theories to give people more data points to understand you as an individual. And you keep adding more to the like that's why I take all the personality assessments just so people have as much info on me.
Mm-hmm.
And to me that's good information for people. It skips a lot of the like how it skips a lot skips forward
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
terms of that relationship. So when people deny you the right to give the, oh, I don't care about those labels. Well, it's like I've done a
Mm-hmm.
lot of work to achieve those labels,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're like, nope, just do. You can be. I can be whatever you want me to be.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's dismissive of people trying to be individuals.
Okay, interesting. And another another point to that too is like when I give you my label, right?
Mhm.
And you discredit my label,
Yeah.
that almost comes off as like, I don't care what you say you are.
Yeah.
I'm going to judge you the way that I want to judge you.
Right. There it is. Even better. And Jung found this out right away because he was like, look, if you could just be, if it was all about effort to be a certain type, then everyone would be fabulously wealthy, connected, rich,
Mhm.
gregarious, popular,
Yeah.
also introspective. Well, obviously you can't will yourself to be all the things, so we're gonna differentiate. And like you
Yeah.
said, you and Dario said this too, like you can be an ENFJ for 24 hours, but can you be an ENFJ for 48, 72 and weeks on? No, you'd probably start to like, okay, this is really painful. I need to regress to the
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
Though there are, like you said, you can stretch and work on certain personality traits that you can do better, but you can't be somebody else all the time, or you'll have what's
Cognitive dissonance.
dissonance, or you're like your
Yeah.
shadow type. I mean, you'll have all these issues with like
Yeah.
uh, identity crisis.
Absolutely. I have I don't know if you can call it a fully fledged theory, but I believe to a certain extent that working outside of that natural predisposition, whether it be genetic or, grown through
Mhm.
time, I think that is possibly what causes the majority of psychosis, aside
So,
from like genetic psychosis.
right, or like trauma or something, or
Right,
drug
right,
induced or whatever.
right.
I think that's what Freud was talking about, but I mean, he wasn't obviously Jung and Freud split with their
Yeah.
early on in their friendship and relationship, but it seems so. You're saying like if I'm an INTJ, then if I was in my either ENTP self for way too long, or I was forced to adopt like ISFJ
Hmm.
mentality, that's where all the like psychosis comes from.
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
think about all of the skills that you hold naturally, right? Everything that you're good at, everything you enjoy doing, and then you get like dropped into let's say like a I don't know, a job environment that is completely antithetical to all those
Mhm.
things. What's going to happen? You're going to get extremely stressed out.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the term? Like fight or flight, I guess.
Yeah.
Some people might adapt well in those situations, but I think the majority of people, if it's something they're not good at, something they don't enjoy doing, and something that stresses them out
Mhm.
naturally, I think prolonged exposure to that environment is going to lead you to at least feel insane.
Yeah. No, I can see that. If it's not something that you can fake for a certain amount of time to get through it, and if it's like, yeah, like prolonged, like it's years of
Yes.
it,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I feel like that's a very sound logic. Like that makes a lot of sense that it's not like it could be based in trauma. A lot of people will go that route, like it's
Mm-hmm.
because of this and you never able to resolve it. But I think from our perspective, it's probably just you were in an environment where you never got to be your natural self.
Absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
people take the MBTI during that phase and they go, yes, I see why you see this, but I don't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it never reconciles until I guess they get out of that environment.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Okay. Um, so I guess a question that I did not prepare you for, but I guess it's you kind of answered it. I was like, it was about why people deny personality types. So we answered
Mm-hmm.
that. So I guess one of the things I've asked in many different ways on my channel is like, if you're, I just want to make you, if you're making a movie, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you've made movies or like you have one in mind, but um, you're casting yourself, not casting yourself, you're working on a movie with. It's you and you have four other types.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you don't have to say your type, but you can tell me what other
Yeah.
types you would choose on set, director, producer, that sort of thing. Go ahead and tell me who
Okay.
you'd
Okay.
pick.
Before I answer this question, I
Yeah,
did think about this a little bit,
yeah.
but before I answer, I think I'm going to blow your mind real quick. The first video that I put up on YouTube was the first time I ever used the camera.
I don't believe that.
No, I swear.
Did you, because you have you must have a cam link or something that you're using? Because you have
I'm
a,
using I'm using my camera right now. I connected it to my
Right.
computer.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you already started out with a super nice camera,
It's
or it
I
looks
mean
super nice.
it's an EOS R. It's an
Okay.
EOS R. So ballpark the body of the camera is around like $700.
Yeah.
So it's nicer, but it's not like film quality. Like people in the film industry would look at this camera and be like, "Oh, that's a crappy camera."
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of what I'm used to, like on MBTI folks using just I'm just using my, Logitech
Cell
1080p one.
phones. Cell phones
Yeah,
are good. Yeah.
cell phones are good. Yeah. So, well, that's very impressive then. That it's just your first time using it. It looks, but like all the editing you do and all that stuff, that's all first time.
I've had a little bit of experience with editing because
Okay.
I have a degree in industrial design, product design,
Okay.
basically. So I've worked with like design softwares in the past,
I see.
um, but not to this level. And I also have experience with like sound engineering, music mixing, and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's man, when I had to do my audio, I did an audiobook by myself for my
Oh,
first book,
geez.
and it was so hard. And it's hard because you have to learn a lot about compression and like how to make it
Yes.
exactly right. And I was like, man, this audio engineers like actually have to do a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
It's
Just for
so much.
something that seems simple, like just voice acting
Yeah.
or narration, it's still a lot of work.
It's so much work. And if you actually try to read a chapter of your own book for like a minute and a half straight, you realize when you hear it back that like you sound out of breath and you don't have any
Mm.
inflection. It's really tough. And then to fix that to Amazon standards is I'll never do it again. I will never do an
Oh.
audiobook again. And my book was only like, I mean, it was like 20,000 words. Like it was an hour and a half or something, but it was brutal. So, anyways, you did blow my mind by saying that you've never touched a camera till now. But that being said, who
Yeah.
are the types you're picking?
Okay. So
Your type.
my type, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Um, I know that the right answer to this, because there is a right answer. I know the right answer is an ENTJ. Um, but I in the past have had such terrible experiences with ENTJs. Not terrible in like that I disliked them for any reason or that they disliked me. We just never meshed well. We have never um, had a good, I guess you could say, power dynamic, right? And it's always felt very forced and awkward for me.
Oh,
That might be a
interesting.
type thing. It might just be like the ENTJs that I've met in my life, which
Yeah.
is very few, I think,
Okay.
less than five.
Wow. Okay.
So that being said, I'd probably say ESTJ is my top pick because you have to have a TE Dom in these situations.
Probably.
You have to. Well, maybe not.
I mean, I'm not gonna say like, oh yeah, because I used to think ENTJ. It's still my favorite type. I love to, I idolize them. I mean, some people say Napoleon was not an ENTJ. I said ESFP, but I don't know. I've read a lot about. I have his biography, not his biography, his autobiography. I've read all about him. Like, there's no way he's an ESFP, um,
Yeah, I think
but
ENTJ makes sense.
ENTJ makes sense. But I'm also like, I've also read books about like Jack Welch as a ENTJ leader of a company, and does not exemplify any of the traits that I would ever want running a company, but somehow he's idolized as like this great person. I'm like, so
I'm not.
there's definitely a spectrum.
I'm not familiar with. Was
Jack
it Jack
Welch,
Welch? Yeah.
yeah, he used to run GE
Oh,
for
okay.
all these
Okay.
years, and if you look him up, there's
Mm,
hundreds of books written about him, and he's written a bunch
gotcha.
of books. But he's the archetypical CEO of a major corporation. And if you
Gotcha.
just read about him, you will
Hmm.
discover that that is the negative side of the ENTJ. So,
I
anyways,
see. Okay.
yeah. So you think TE Dom at least needs to be there?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think if I could find an ENTJ that I got along with, I'd say ENTJ. But as of now, ESTJ I think makes most sense.
Okay. So you got ESTJ. What else?
I think an INFP would be. God, I feel like I'm gonna choose everyone from the Delta Quadrant. Um,
Okay.
I think an INFP would be super useful in a film, or at least for what I do
Hmm.
in writing. Um, like every great writer of all time is typed as an INFP. I don't know if that's true or not, but like I think Tolstoy is argued to be INFP, C.S.
Okay.
Lewis, INFP, right?
Yes, I know C.S. Lewis is, yeah.
Yeah. So I think for what I do, having someone to help me with like writing, especially I'm starting to get more involved in like integrating story structure
Hmm.
into what I'm doing. I think that would be awesome.
Okay.
Um,
Yes. And they can write a lot. I
yeah,
find myself struggling to elaborate on ideas
me too.
where where NEFI or just NE in general, because I know some ENTPs that can write and read like you've never like triple the amount of writing and triple the amount of reading that I can do. Like I in 2020 I read 100 books because I said I'm gonna do 100 books and I was on furlough, and then an ENFP commented on that. It's like, yeah, I read 300 this year. I'm like, so that NE can write and elaborate on their thoughts and feelings like no one else.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
INFP, ESTJ, got two more.
Okay. So just to make sure the scenario is clear, we're making a film, right?
We're making a film. I would say, I guess you'd be directing it, or I would say, let me make it more clear. So you're the producer. Let's say
Okay.
you're picking who you want on the film. So
Hmm.
you have ESTJ, you have an INFP, and then who are
Hmm.
the other people that are helping you?
Okay. So I would say ESTJ is going to be doing a lot of like organization and making sure like all of the things are going well. INFP is going to be like you could say like the main writer or the right hand man to the
Hmm.
writer. I would need someone to do some of the visual stuff, like someone who's going to pay attention to the shots and making sure that things look clean and the transitions make sense. So I'd say probably an ESFP. Um, Picking a lot of TE users. I feel bad.
Bad. Well,
um,
yeah, I mean, every single person so far has TE in their top four.
yeah, maybe an ESTP then, just to balance out the TE.
Okay, there you
Yeah,
go.
so because ESTPs would be good with that too, right?
The aesthetics, the shot, and in the what's it congruency between
Yeah,
sequences.
aesthetics in general, I think is what I the role that I'd like to fill.
Hmm. It doesn't immediately pop out as like that's who I would pick.
Mhm.
I mean, I thought of someone like a Dear Kristen ESFP. Like
Yeah,
that's the first thing I thought.
ESFP is definitely the first thing that comes to mind.
And
But I've got so much
Amy,
TE.
yeah, I know. And you know Amy Y. Have you seen her?
Amy Y.
Amy Y. She's an ESFP. She does a lot of content creation.
I don't think I know her. No.
Okay, it's AIMEEY. She took a break.
Oh, yes, I do know who you're
Yes,
talking about. Yeah.
she's also great with aesthetics, transitions, intros,
Yes.
outros.
Yeah.
Like I always think like, but ESTP, I would say no. So you okay?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you tell me, but I think we're leaning towards ESFP.
I want a TI user. I need TI users. I'm going with ESTP and just hoping that their
Okay,
SE is like really
okay,
good.
you're rolling the dice. It's fine.
Yeah. And last, so I've got Delta Quadra, I've
Mhm.
got Beta. Oh man. Maybe maybe like an ISFJ.
Okay, for what?
I think for like PR or
Hmm.
HR. Um,
People relations, internal and external.
yeah, making sure that the like if the ESTJ is making sure that the
Operations.
mechanistic, yeah, the operational
Yeah.
structure is going well. The ISFJ or the ESFJ could be making sure that like people are getting along within the group. Um,
Yeah, that's important.
yeah. But I would say also like if I was working on any other project that wasn't like film related, this team would be completely different. Like if I was working on like if I wanted to write a book or something, none of these people would be.
Well, INFP, maybe.
Maybe an INFP, yeah,
Yeah.
depending on what the book was about. But if it was like
Most,
something
yeah. Go ahead.
nonfiction,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I look at all these. I would consider myself. pretty good at using TE if I am indeed an INTJ, but some people said I'm ISTP, but
I
that's
want
a
to
whole
talk to you about that
nother.
if we have time also, but
Okay.
continue.
Um, all the books that are nonfiction that pretty much exist in business, personal development, health are all TE users.
Yeah.
They all end up being like, here are the 4 steps to success, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
Follow these things, and it's especially when it comes like the business or how to be efficient. It's just ESTJs or ENTJs writing about how to be an ENTJ, which I love because I feel I can relate to that. But it doesn't help most people. It only helps
I,
people that can actually implement it.
I was going to ask you that. Do you think that anyone other than like TJs get anything from those books?
um, oh man, that's I've thought about this so much. Get something from it. They get a lot of motivation, inspiration, and then they just don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
But that's my bias. Like that's probably wrong. Like if you're an INFP and you have TE somewhere down there, and like I just want to access it, and I can find something that I really care about, FI connection, then a TE DOM book would be like, this is the book I've been looking for to just get me going.
Okay.
Because
What
when I
about
read,
like,
mhm,
sorry, go ahead.
like everyone loves Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it's I read it, and I was like, that's what I do most of the day.
Gotcha.
But some
Yeah.
people are like, this is
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
he's like still like a bestseller. So I think maybe TE DOMs read another TE DOM book and go, yeah, this is pretty good.
Hmm.
Not amazing, but then like maybe an ESFJ reads it and goes like, I can't believe I never knew about this.
Hmm. I
Go
don't
ahead
think
with your
I've,
question. You sound like you wanted to ask something.
I do have a question. I was going
Okay.
to say, like, I don't think that I've ever read anything related. What would you label those? Like productivity?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever read anything in that genre before, and I don't know if that's indicative of my type or maybe in spite of my type. Um, but I have heard a lot of good things about Atomic Habits, maybe not from TE DOMs or TE secondary users.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't mean to say I'm a TE DOM because I know that I'm not. But I sometimes I just say that because I in my work mode it is definitely that.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask, like, you know, we're saying that people are getting stuff out of these productivity books, whether they be TE DOMs, secondary. They had TE somewhere. What about like a TE blind user? What about like an ISFJ or an INFJ?
Um I have I felt like I have put a lot of effort into personal friends of mine that are INFJs. I don't think I
Mhm.
know any ISFJs.
Okay.
Um, and it is like they're very open to getting a bunch of ideas from a lot of different people. But then I feel like they just don't have the follow through to, it's like they want to ask for help, but then sometimes I go, do you really want the help or do you just want me to tell you something and then you go and do your own thing? So
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
implementation is hard for them.
Gotcha.
Discipline. I don't know if discipline is a TESE thing
Hmm.
combined or if it's some other or it's an FI thing. But I feel like they lack those things to get themselves moving.
Yeah. It's
What do
funny
you
that you.
say?
Well, I was gonna say it's funny that you say that they lack implementation. We're talking specifically about INFJs right now, right?
INFJ, yeah.
Because I think you know Harry Morell from CPT.
Yeah, I follow his channel, but I don't think I've ever watched a whole video.
Okay. um, I like his content a lot. One of the things that he said recently was because he does function pairings. He said that TE and SE together as a function pairing are like quintessentially implementation. So that would make sense
Brilliant, brilliant.
for like INFJs being bad at that. But what does that mean in practice? Like, does that mean that they just sit around thinking all day, not doing anything?
No, it's they try a lot of things
Okay.
and they go, yeah, that diet didn't work. It just never didn't work for me. And
Okay.
then you're like, why not? And it's like, well, it just, that after that first couple days, I didn't see results or something. It's not like they have an
Hmm.
impatience, but it's just like they didn't push past the like crappy phase of any new diet,
Gotcha.
exercise
Gotcha.
plan,
Hmm.
habit change. Whereas I feel like TESE can do that
Mhm.
endure discomfort for much longer to get to the end goal that they seek, or figure out that it's not worth it.
Okay, yeah. I do think that I guess a lot of TE users in general tend to be more conscientious, I guess you could say, have better discipline and things like that. But I don't think it's just TE. Like a lot of TI DOMs also tend to be very
Yes,
disciplined.
super disciplined,
Yeah,
especially like I know there's a famous fight coming up. Mike Tyson's fighting Jake Paul,
I heard it
and
got postponed. I don't know if that's true. I was just,
not oh, it was supposed to be in July, right?
I think so. Yeah,
Is that postponed after July?
I saw something on Facebook
Oh
earlier that
my
said that it was going to
goodness.
be postponed because Tyson got an injury or something. I don't know. It was
Hmm.
just like I don't really follow uh, what is it, boxing or MMA.
Me neither, but I in Tyson, Jake Paul. Let's see. Postponed after ulcer. So okay, so
Oh,
it
it's
was
legit.
yeah, it's an ulcer.
Oh
Tyson's
man,
ulcer, the old guy. But I love Mike Tyson. He's an ISTP. So is a guy like David Goggins, who I kind of read
yeah,
all his
yeah,
stuff, and those are ISTP, extremely disciplined,
yeah.
physical people that can push way past most people's like
Hmm.
limit. And so I go like, what is that about? What
Yeah.
function is making them be disciplined?
Well, I've entertained the thought before, and I think that every type has the potential to be disciplined anywhere, but I think that each type is has a proclivity towards discipline in specific areas, right? Like, let me think. IFJs are probably more disciplined in patience related to people,
Yes.
right? More so than TE users, I would assume. But maybe less so in like achieving, mm, not to be offensive, but like materialistic goals,
Yeah.
let's say.
Absolute 100%. Yeah.
So I think that the discipline, it's just in different areas, and a lot of life is just like how can we integrate that into every area.
So then a type that I love and I have had great relationships with is the ENFP, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where they implement discipline.
Oh,
Like
that's a good question.
I would not be like, man, the ENF, I mean, they're really good at like absorbing information.
Mm-hmm.
I found them to be very articulate. They can
Mm-hmm.
explain something they just learned yesterday as at like a PhD level, as if they're
Mm-hmm.
like they studied it all their life. They're good at monologuing. They have a lot of, but I'm like, what? Where would I say they're disciplined? Like, what function of their life would they be disciplined? And I can't think based off what you've said
That's
where
a
that would be.
great question. I mean, nothing pops in my mind immediately.
So
But there's got to be something,
maybe
right?
social, maybe so that like they're always very plugged in. They have a lot of different groups of people. Some of the ENFPs I know like have contacts everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They know so many people. So it's like their
Yeah,
social network tends to be like an ENFJ. I don't know.
yeah,
I
that
don't
would
know.
make sense.
Hard to say.
My theory could be completely wrong though. I want to give credit where credit is due, and I think that here, let me approach it from this level.
Yes.
Um, when I was watching your video recently about, I think you said someone typed you as an ISTP.
Yes.
And it seemed like one of the contributing factors to that was your relationship with physical activity.
Yeah.
Like you said you like to run. You
Yeah.
did, was it a marathon? Um,
10K.
okay,
I
yeah.
am
So,
gonna do one soon, but yes.
well, good luck.
Thank you.
But I just want to like dismantle this idea that like physicality is related to type.
Okay.
I don't think that that's the case. And the reason I say that is like, if you go back to like uh, classical antiquity and we look at philosophers of that time,
Hmm.
Plato, Socrates, like everyone was a like buff giant gym dude, right? Like Plato, who's assumed to be, I think, an INFJ,
Okay.
Socrates, most likely an ENTP, they were very buff. Like, like, um, physical aesthetic and like health and
Yes,
exercise were very important to them. And I don't think that's in spite of their type. I think it might be a cultural thing
sure.
and not a type related thing.
Okay. I didn't know they were jacked.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Oh,
every philosopher of that time was like, because a lot of their what would you say? Their
is there values?
yeah, so their value structure was like centered around like you had like the mind, the
Mhm.
body, and the heart, or like Plato's three levels of the soul, right? And so to be a complete person or to be a well-rounded person was to have all of those things integrated equally with, in Plato's case, the what did he call it? I don't remember what he called it, but like the philosopher part of the
Okay.
soul was sitting up top.
Yeah, so the mind was number one, but then body close and then heart. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if those values are have translated till today.
Do you think that there is a relationship to physicality and type? And if so, where do you think it comes from and why?
Physicality, I, I, I don't know if I have an explanation for it. All I can say is that like if we were to trust sites like Personality Database and other stuff like
Mm-hmm,
that, where it's
mm-hmm.
like user submitted and you go to athletes, famous athletes, and they not all, but a lot of them seem to be
SC
ST
users.
STPs. So you go, okay, that something's about that. And then you go to
Mm-hmm,
like, you know, the greatest chess players of all time. It's a lot
mm-hmm,
of NITE or
mm-hmm.
NTPs or NTJs. And you go, okay,
Yeah.
well, there's something there too. Except Magnus Carlsen's an ISTP, but like he's an anomaly. But
Mm-hmm.
most of them are like more heady cerebral types.
Yeah. No,
But
I
I,
agree.
so
I
how do
agree.
you? I don't have a.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I
I
mean, I don't have a thought.
have two thoughts. The first one is I think that our culture has perpetuated a false dichotomy that is you can either be physically active or intelligent. And I don't think that that's the case.
Right.
Um, but maybe to caveat myself in my original statement, I hope this isn't infallible. I think that like Plato and Socrates were not like the top bodybuilders of their time, right? So I think what how that translates in today's world is like no, like an INTP is probably not going to be the best basketball player,
Right.
right? They're not going to be a professional athlete by any means, but I don't think that that like excludes them from being able to like go to the gym or enjoy running or things like that.
Right. Okay. Yes, that is the caveat is like they're not going to be the top of the pyramid,
No,
top
no,
1%. It's just they will not. I'm telling you, if I see an INTP that is the leading scorer in the NBA, I will eat my words and I'll quit
that'd be
today.
crazy.
And if I but like an ISTP could be like an award-winning Nobel scientist. They could. That
Absolutely, yeah.
TI, I think that
Mhm.
TI is the main thing there. Um,
I think another thing to remember when we're talking about sports, like the way sports is different from like just general physical health as
right.
far as exercise is
Yeah.
concerned, is like there is a what would you call it? Like the attention. I'm losing my words right now.
Hmm.
The reaction time. That's the word I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Right, like SE has a lot to do with reaction time. I think so. That's not really a concern with like just taking care of your body physically,
Sure.
but it is a huge deal in sports, and maybe that's why they're so good.
I see. Okay. Okay. And one thing translates to another or okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So like it's just I could go all day or not even arguing, but just when and these are the type of discussions I'd like to have because um why do I like to have these discussions? Because type is the meta frame. So even though everyone doesn't like Eric from Talking with Famous People, I just love that guy. And he is just insane and I love him to death. And if he ever watches this, I thank him for a lot of things because talked about type as the meta frame. It is the
Yeah.
thing that goes above all the other. You can't get outside of it. Even
Hmm.
if you have a psychosis, like it's still contained within that because
Hmm.
it might be a explosion of the
Hmm.
shadow or something. So nothing is outside of type.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So any discussion has type relations, which I love. And so no matter what we talk about, it's always good content. So Ah-bree, leave the audience with something that you're working on, something you want them to know about. Just what should they know about you?
Whew. Um, oh man, that's a tough question. What should I leave the audience with? Um,
Well, they should follow your channel. So it's just Ah-bree Shaffer.
Definitely,
Ah-bree
yeah.
Shaffer.
Aubrey Shaffer, yeah.
Shaffer. Okay.
Albury, spelled very strangely. Um, Man, I don't even know what I would say here.
Maybe you said it all. Maybe you said it all in the video,
Maybe
and there's
maybe
nothing
maybe
else.
we've said everything. Yeah, I would say like I here's what I'll say. I'm working on a video right now for neuroscience and its connection to personality type. Um, so be on the lookout for that.
Okay.
But I would like to say, however controversial it may be, that I do believe that everything cascades from type, kind of has, as you've said.
Hmm.
But I think that type itself cascades from the brain, if that makes sense.
Yes. Well, Dario would obviously agree with you
I think so.
and
Maybe
say,
not though. I've heard that he doesn't believe that values are part of our personality type, but I may be
hmm,
misquoting him.
it could be. I mean, he could be a little bit contrarian in that point of view. I do know that when you're doing his like EEG brain scan thing,
Mhm.
that he asks you to one of the hardest things on that test is to rank your values.
Okay, interesting. You've
Yeah.
done his test before, right?
Yeah, I have done it. And it's like so you have one of the questions is like you have there's 20 values. He just what
Mhm.
he picked they're randomly generated and you have to pick 10 positive and 10 negative ones. And a lot of them are really close to each other. So
Okay,
you're
interesting.
forced to pick a value. So it that would be surprising if he had that question and he didn't believe that that could be figured
Hmm.
out by maybe it's just what module of the brain
Yeah,
flexes when you're picking it, but
I think I may have misspoke. What I mean to say is like when you say, for example, within Michael Pierce's framework,
that's my dog.
the king,
Like
he's
I
the
love
king.
Michael Pierce.
Yeah,
God.
he's great. But within his framework, like you can make assumptions about what someone's core values are based on their type. Like you believe this is truth and this is good, right? But I think Nardi would say people who are more in tune with what their values are might certain types have a predisposition towards being more in tune with their values, but that
Oh,
doesn't necessarily mean that a type will have this value.
I see. He probably would say that.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Wow, this is also one of the longest interviews I've done, and I
I'm sorry.
enjoyed every second. We'll have to do a part two because I think there's a why don't you can interview me for your channel
I'd love
if you
to. Yeah,
want, but
absolutely.
I just don't want to take away from the thematic cinematic universe that you've created. So we'll have to figure out how that's going to work. But Ah-bree, thanks for joining me. I should have this up in a couple days,
Okay.
but everyone follow his channel. It's at Aubrey Shaffer. He's got 287 subscribers, so we need to get that. We need to get that to at least
Yeah,
1K,
we need to
2K.
break 1K.
Yeah, we need to at least let him start advertising. That's what I say. So,
That'd be nice.
Aubrey, thanks for the time. I appreciate it. Be good.
Thank you again, Joe. It's been an honor.